We have some comments coming through. People who, I think they're just trying to see how can they be optimistic about this conference. Zoirat, for instance, says, how has the National Assembly and the government looked at the Uwais report? The report would have saved us billions, but as it is, here we are talking about another government. And so, several comments like this.
Well, I don't know what to say to that, except that the current conference has not taken off the quality of the people and the large number. Remember the conscious effort made to send the advisory panel all over the country. And believe you me, in many states, several meetings were held by different groups prior to the arrival of the panel.
Hey, but Chief, this same process that they went through, albeit painstaking, but remember, the Constitution Amendment took almost the same format. But when they got to the National Assembly, what did we see? Something completely different. What has happened to that one now, in spite of the process?
No. I think the consciousness with which people are getting ready for this one is totally different from the National Assembly. National Assembly, when they did their consultations, I'm aware of that. It was more like you're a legislator, you gather your people, you brief them. But this time, it's like the whole town. Let me just give you an example of Bauchi again. In Bauchi, you may have up to 50 tribes, but we just say Hausas. Ambaka Tafawa Balewa was a Hausaman. He was never a Hausaman. By the time the panel got there, people came out in their traditional costumes. In other words, the consciousness was there. In Lagos, what happened to the Awori people? They came there, laying claims to so many things. In other words, we are building up expectation from them. It is that expectation which all those going to that confab will make sure they do not disappoint.
You know, looking at those going for the conference, you know, one of the arguments is that some of these people have actually been there over time. And the question is, what is it that they couldn't have done for us to change things that they just realized that going for this conference would amount to the change we've always wanted as a people?
Well, I think nature made it that you have old people, you have young people, you have middle-aged people. The reason is very simple. Let's not forget where we were before. If Nwobodo gets up to talk, I will tell you, oh, this is what I was when Nwobodo was governor. If Ike Clark gets up to talk, I will tell you, I was a minister alongside Olusegun Obasanjo. The two of them were ministers under Yakubu Gowon. If Jerry Gana gets up to talk, I will say, oh, yes, he has been there. He has been a constant factor. In other words, let's not forget where we're coming from. The worst mistake you make is to think that, oh, you say now a tabula rasa, you get up and you say nothing that has not been said before. Let us find out why that one failed. For instance, those who attended the 1995 conference, 1994-1995 conference, what happened to them? Some of them are here. They will remind us we said that.
Even though some of them led the walkouts of some groups.
And all those who led the
walkout,
at least Yaradua paid for that thing with his life. Shehu Yaradua. Not consciously, but he was killed in the process. Now, we will not forget the experience of 2005 that was simply set up just to gratify one man's ambition. So this time, everybody is on his toes. Whether you support Mr. President or you don't support Mr. President.
I wish they won't say the same thing at this conference, because at the end of the day, just as we say, I mean, just now, no law backing all of this. If the president at the end of the day says, well, I'm trying to get this to the National Assembly and see how we can give it a legal backing so that I don't just take a unilateral action, and this takes 4 years.
Well, in terms of what you say about the law backing it up, the Constitution guarantees discussion. That's the first thing you must realize.
Implementation of the outcome of the discussion.
Implementation is always, if it's lawmaking, it is through the National Assembly. If it is executive action, not everything said in the confab will go to the National Assembly. Some will go to the executive. Some will go to the judiciary. If we're talking about the justice implementation system, all you have to do is to approach the Chief Justice of Nigeria. The Chief Justice is empowered to make rules. So she can always do that. Mr. President, we don't like this thing you're doing. You want to privatize this, you want to privatize. These are all issues that will come up.
Yes, but
for
Chief
each
Ralph.
arm. Okay, let me just tell you. The National Assembly, right, when the House of Reps said they were not going to debate the budget, some of us started laughing. If we don't get the budget through, how will you get your constituency allowance? There are constituency projects which you present to your own constituents now to tell them you are working. How will they come true? So that's why I said it's gara-gara at times.
Well, I still worry about your answer to that question, because I still, it beats me if someone has been there before over time, and you know, you just talked about, you mentioned some names and what you were when they were there. You can imagine our own generation what they'll be thinking or saying, what they were when these people were there. So, and over time, from the late 60s to 70s, and now they're still coming to tell us the way to go. Is it any difference that some of the things that will be highlighted will always be the same thing that we have always complained about? And if some never believed in a conference, and we have actually seen them in the past stage a walkout, and they're back in this conference, isn't it a sign that all may not go well at the end of the day with some of these people that have actually come?
I think the French people have an expression. They say it's a potpourri. All kinds of people are expected in a conference. Anytime you have a conference where everybody goes one way, that is no conference. Some will walk out. When Obasanjo did his Constituent Assembly in 1977, remember, some people walked out. This Shego Oko, who just died, was there representing the students. And then, of course, he was walked out by Udoma.
And we knew why he was walked out.
Because he was dressed in this funny-looking red attire, being a student union leader. I think he was 30-something then. Was married and was a student union president. And Udoma said, "How can you sit here?" Argument ensued. He just died in his early 70s. Some of those who were in that 1977 conference are still here. In other words, they will make sure we do not reinvent the wheel.
I hope that they are not what we'll be calling conference veterans.
Yes, a veteran is also needed. If you don't have a veteran in any conference, in anything you're discussing, you'll be reinventing
a successful veteran.
Yes, they have younger people. For instance, if you have of these old people, I really call them people in their 70s, some maybe 80s. You have only about 20 of them out of 400 and something delegates. That is no problem. You have more than 20 committees. So if you have one of them in any committee, and then they are talking, and they say, look, when we did it like this, it was like this. What the committees expect to do is to look into what was done there, instead of going down the same dark alley.
Do you also see, because I mean, some people will say that if some light is shone in this dark alleys, we've talked about truth and how difficult it's going to be to address some of these things, and how over the years politicians have managed to, you know, skirt over it. How do you see the issues of, or the issue of money being addressed? Resources. I mean, maybe I'm using the,
okay, you mean
the word
resource control
too bluntly, but you know, I guess that will be the underlying factor at the end of the day, the money.
Yes, the money that belongs to this Nigeria, how is it generated, how is it shared? It will be one of the top issues. If, for instance, there's crude oil in your place, you have been farming in this land, suddenly when the government comes and says, we have discovered oil in your place, this land is no longer yours. You are expected to put your hand in your chin. So, for many of us, resource control will be tops, will be an issue. If you ask me here, I'll tell you. It's going to be tops. Some people believe in, oh, we're coming to share. Others say we're coming to generate. Some will say we generate and we also share. What was the situation in the 60s? It must be addressed. If in the 60s, the West had control of its resources, the North did the same, the East did the same, and then they paid 50% of their taxes to the federal government. Some of us will say, bring it back now.
Do you see, you've noticed how contentious this issue of money has been in past conferences, and just how very little has been yielded to the people who ask for these things. What is the guarantee that anything is going to change in this conference?
There is no guarantee for success. That's the first thing. But the day you stop talking, then you start shooting. We will keep pressing. It took Gowon during the war in order to deal with Biafra that he now enacted the decree whereby he took away the resources and made all those who live in the resource control areas as tenants. So it took time to move up to 13%. And many of us are saying, let us go back to what it was in the 1960s, in the 1950s. That was why people were developing their regions according to their own level, at their own pace. So if today resource control comes back, we have 50%, and they pay tax to the federal government, people will be forced to dig in.
But the challenge there will be getting the consensus or 75%, because just as history, those who did what they did with the previous conferences, if people now come back and say, well, okay, the simple way to frustrate this is, there goes your 75%. If a group stages a walkout, you can't reach a consensus.
Yes, but the consciousness is still there. Now, let me tell you, Zamfara State is a mineral-rich state. But if you ask all the big men from that place, they'll be looking towards Bayelsa to go and own one oil well, instead of owning the mineral rights. So it will take time for us to drum it that, yes, 50%, we still have a lot for all of us in this country. But we must keep talking.
All right, Chief Goddy Uwazurike is a legal practitioner. I don't know why that keeps coming. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you.